I'm 29, and if you told me 5 years ago that I'd end up bankrolling my sister's entire wedding only to be uninvited from it, I would have laughed in disbelief. My name's Evan, and growing up, I was the quiet one, the kind of kid who did his homework early, stayed out of trouble, and got overlooked because I wasn't loud enough to demand attention. My younger sister, Olivia, was the opposite. She could throw a tantrum in a mall and somehow come out of it with a new toy. My parents used to call her their little princess. And me? Well, I was just responsible Evan, the one who didn't need anything. Our family dynamic was strange. My parents weren't cruel, but they had a way of making me feel like the background character in my own life. Birthdays came and went with a polite cake and maybe a gift card, while Olivia's every milestone was treated like a national holiday. She got dance recitals, new cars, even a trip to Europe after graduation. I didn't mind at first. I figured that once we grew up, the favoritism would fade. Spoiler, it didn't. By the time I was in my late 20s, I had built a stable life for myself. I ran a small but successful design business that had picked up some major clients, enough for me to move into a modest but comfortable home. Olivia, meanwhile, had bounced between jobs and boyfriends, always chasing the next big thing. My parents kept supporting her, even when she made obviously bad choices. So when she got engaged to a guy named Ryan, a realtor who looked like he practiced his smile in the mirror, I wasn't surprised to hear my parents immediately offering to help pay for the wedding. Except, help quickly turned into, we're kind of tapped out. Can you step in for a bit, Evan? It started innocently enough. My mom called me one afternoon, sounding flustered. Sweetheart, Olivia found the perfect venue, she said, but the deposit deadline is tomorrow, and your father's paycheck doesn't clear until next week. Could you maybe cover it? Just temporarily? I hesitated, but she promised they'd pay me back within a month. It was $12,000, not pocket change, but doable. I agreed. That was mistake number one. Because once you start helping, people start expecting. A month later, my mom asked if I could also cover the catering deposit so everything stays on schedule. Then the photography. Then the dress alterations. Then the flower arrangements. Every single time, there was some reason. It's just until next month. We'll figure it out soon. You'll get it all back. By the time I realized how deep I was in, I had wired over $200,000 in payments. My savings were shrinking, and my parents still hadn't reimbursed a cent. At first, I didn't even tell anyone. I convinced myself I was just being a good brother. Olivia would send the occasional thank you text, a heart emoji here, a you're the best. There, but that was it. She acted like it was normal that I was footing every bill. The first time I confronted her, she brushed it off with a laugh. You make good money, Evan. Besides, it's not like you'll ever have a wedding of your own, she said, half joking, half serious. I laughed awkwardly, pretending it didn't sting. The truth was, I'd always been a bit of a loner. My long-term relationship had ended a few years ago, and since then, I'd thrown myself into work. Helping my family made me feel needed again, like I finally had a role in their lives beyond being the quiet, forgettable one. That feeling, the illusion of being appreciated, was addictive, so I kept saying yes. But as the wedding planning escalated, so did Olivia's entitlement. Suddenly, she was calling me with urgent requests, last-minute changes, rush fees, custom decorations. Evan, I found a new designer for the invitations, she said one night. Her work is so elegant, but she's a bit pricey. Could you send $8,500 by tomorrow? Please? You know how bad I am with paperwork. She was right about that. Olivia had always relied on others to clean up after her. But it was more than carelessness now. It was manipulation. I was being used, and deep down, I knew it. Still, I didn't stop. Maybe because I wanted to prove something, that I wasn't the selfish one they made me out to be. Maybe because I hoped, just once, someone in my family would look at me with real gratitude. Instead, what I got was the exact opposite. About 2 months before the wedding, my parents invited me to dinner. I thought maybe they were finally ready to talk about repayment or at least thank me for stepping up. But as soon as I walked in, the atmosphere felt off. Olivia and Ryan were there too, sitting across the table, all smiles. The kind of fake smiles you put on before dropping bad news. Evan, my mom started, clasping her hands. We've been meaning to talk about the wedding arrangements. I nodded, waiting. Olivia jumped in before she could finish. So, we've been working with the planner, and honestly, Everything's coming together perfectly. There's just one thing. About the guest list. I frowned. What about it? She hesitated, glancing at Ryan, who gave her a tiny nod. Then she said it. We decided it might be best if you didn't attend the ceremony. For a second, I thought I misheard. I laughed nervously. What? She sighed like I was being difficult. It's nothing personal, Evan. It's just that. Well, we want the wedding to reflect a certain image, and you have a tendency to, make things awkward. I stared at her. Awkward? What does that even mean? Ryan leaned forward, smirking. She means that this is a very exclusive event. No offense, man, but you're not exactly the social type. We just don't want any uncomfortable moments. Uncomfortable moments. From me, the guy who had quietly paid for everything. My hands went cold. My mom tried to chime in with her usual, let's not make a scene voice, but I couldn't even hear her. Olivia kept talking, completely oblivious to how cruel she sounded. Please don't take it the wrong way, she added. We love you. But this is a luxury wedding, Evan. There will be investors, clients, people from Ryan's company. It's not really your crowd. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. All those months of wiring money, losing sleep, stretching my savings. And now they didn't even want me there. I could barely get words out. So, you want me to keep paying, but not show up? She blinked. Well, it's already mostly covered, isn't it? You've been such a big help. Honestly, you should be proud of yourself. Proud of myself. For funding my own humiliation. I looked at my parents. My dad wouldn't meet my eyes. My mom gave me this pitying look, the kind she used when I was a kid, and she thought I'd overreacted to something. Sweetheart, it's not that big of a deal, she said softly. Let them have their special day. You'll still be part of it in spirit. That was the moment something in me shifted. I'd spent my whole life letting them talk over me, laugh at me, minimize me, and I had let it slide because I didn't want to be the problem. But this was different. This was betrayal disguised as etiquette. I didn't say anything then. I just nodded, finished my meal in silence, and left early. Olivia called out, "No hard feelings, right?" as I walked out the door. I didn't answer. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at my laptop. My inbox was filled with receipts, deposits, invoices, contracts, all under my name, all tied to my accounts. The wedding that I was now banned from attending wasn't just funded by me, it legally belonged to me. And that realization changed everything. I didn't know it yet, but that dinner would be the last time my sister ever called me Evie, the childhood nickname she used when she wanted something. Because the next time she heard from me, it wouldn't be through a text or a phone call. It would be through someone else entirely, someone who could make a single phone call and end everything she'd built her fairy tale around. After that dinner, something inside me broke, not in an angry, explosive way, but in a quiet, hollow kind of way that seeps into your bones and makes you feel like a stranger in your own life. I'd always thought my family's favoritism was annoying but harmless. Now I saw it for what it was, a pattern. And I was the fool who kept volunteering to be the stepping stool. The next few weeks were a blur of fake politeness. Olivia texted me occasionally, mostly to update me on how well the wedding planning was going. The venue is locked in. Everyone's obsessed with the decor, she'd gush, followed by pictures of a ballroom draped in white roses and chandeliers. There wasn't a single thank you in sight, just a stream of luxury I had inadvertently paid for. My parents acted like nothing had happened. My mom would call and chat about how excited everyone was. My dad would occasionally mention that Ryan's family seems very respectable, as if I needed to be reminded that my sister had leveled up socially. I wanted to cut them all off, to just walk away, but every conversation ended with another guilt trip. Evan, don't ruin things now, my mom said one afternoon. Olivia is under a lot of stress, and she's counting on you to be supportive. Supportive. I was already paying for her dream day, and wasn't even invited to watch it. How much more supportive could I possibly be? I started keeping a folder of every transaction related to the wedding. I didn't know why at first, maybe it was instinct. I saved every email from vendors, every invoice, every receipt that showed my name on the contracts. The numbers were insane. $31,000 for catering, $18,500 for floral arrangements, $47,000 for the band, $7,200 for a cake that looked like a modern art sculpture. And the list went on. Each time a new charge appeared on my credit card, I felt a little more detached. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was documenting, observing, preparing. Then came the next insult, one that almost felt like a parody of my life. About 3 weeks after that dinner, I got an email from the wedding planner forwarded from Olivia's account. It was a note about guest access and vendor authorization. At the bottom of the email, under the vendor payments section, there was a note written by Olivia herself. All final invoices will be covered by my brother, Evan, who is generously sponsoring the event as part of our family's wedding fund. Sponsoring? Like I was some kind of charity donor. I called her immediately. Olivia, what is this? She sounded distracted. What's what? The email you sent your planner. My brother who's sponsoring the wedding? Are you serious? She laughed. Oh, that? Don't get so worked up. It's just easier to explain that way. No one needs to know the financial details. It sounds better if people think you're, like, helping out. Helping out. I repeated. I've paid for everything, Olivia. Okay, chill, she said. You're acting dramatic. You're good with money, and I'm not. It's teamwork. Teamwork implies I was invited to the game, I said flatly. She went silent for a moment. Then, in that clipped, patronizing tone she used when she thought I was being childish, she said, Evan, this is my wedding. Can we not make it about you for once? I hung up. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed her words again and again until they felt like static in my head. Can we not make it about you for once? That line stuck with me because that was how my family had always operated. Any time I stood up for myself, even as a kid, I was told I was making a scene or causing problems. Meanwhile, Olivia could throw tantrums, miss deadlines, or insult relatives, and it was always excused because she's just under pressure. The next morning, I checked my bank account. My savings had taken a nosedive, nearly 3/4 gone. I still had money coming in from my business, but watching that balance drop every week because of someone else's fairy tale was surreal. Then came the phone call that sealed it for me. My mom called, sounding chipper. Evan, you're going to be so proud of your sister. She's on the cover of a local wedding magazine. I was silent. They did a feature on her engagement shoot, she continued. It's so beautiful. She looks like a movie star. You should pick up a copy. I didn't need to, because 2 hours later, Olivia posted it on Instagram. There she was, in a flowing white dress, standing in a vineyard, smiling at Ryan. The caption read, None of this would be possible without my amazing fiancé, Ryan, who's made all my dreams come true. No mention of me. Not one word. I didn't comment. I didn't like the post. But she noticed anyway. A day later, I got a text. Olivia, you didn't like the photo LOL. Everything okay? Me? Fine. Olivia? Okay, just checking. You've been kinda distant lately. Me? Maybe because I'm not invited to your wedding. Olivia? Evan? Please don't start again. You're going to make mom anxious. That was it. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just another reminder that my feelings were a nuisance. The tension kept building. I started hearing things through mutual acquaintances, comments Olivia made at parties, little digs about me being too intense or too private. Apparently, she'd been telling people I had control issues and that she was grateful I could contribute to her special day, as if I were some distant relative sending a check out of obligation. A week before the wedding, I went to my parents' house to drop off a box of old family photos. My mom opened the door and gave me that half-sincere smile. Oh, sweetheart, we were just talking about you. In the living room sat Olivia and Ryan, sipping wine like they owned the place. The conversation that followed was something else. Evan, Olivia said, we were wondering if you could help out with one more thing. I didn't answer. She continued, we're finalizing the rehearsal dinner menu, and there's been a small issue. The caterer raised their prices last minute, and, well, it's a bit tight. Could you maybe cover it? Just $9,000 more. I actually laughed, not out of humor, but disbelief. You've got to be kidding me. Ryan leaned back, smirking. It's a small thing, man. It's not like you're broke. I looked at my parents, waiting for one of them to step in. They didn't. My mom just said, You've always been so generous, honey. This would really take the pressure off Olivia. And that's when I realized they all genuinely believed this was normal. That my purpose in this family was to fund everyone else's happiness. I stood up. You know what? No, I'm done. I've paid more than enough. Figure it out yourselves. Olivia scoffed. Wow. Okay. You don't have to get so defensive. It's just money. Yeah, I said, my voice shaking. It's my money. I left before they could say anything else. That night, my phone blew up. Texts from my mom, from Olivia, even from my dad, all saying variations of the same thing. You're overreacting. You're ruining her big day. You've always been so sensitive. I didn't reply to any of them. I just opened my laptop, pulled up the contract folder I'd been keeping, and started reading line by line. There it was, my name, my signature, my payments. Everything from the venue to the photography was under my authorization. Every vendor, every deposit, every insurance policy. If Olivia thought I was too embarrassing to be part of her wedding, fine. But she had no idea how fragile her fairy tale really was, how easily it all could crumble with a single phone call. And as I sat there that night, surrounded by invoices and receipts, something in me finally clicked into place. Not anger, not sadness, just clarity. Because for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't powerless in this family dynamic. I wasn't the quiet, forgettable brother anymore. I was the one holding the foundation of her perfect wedding together, and she had built it all on top of my name. And all it would take to make that tower fall was me deciding I'd had enough. But I wasn't ready to make that call yet. Not just yet. There were still things to set in motion, details to double-check, timing to perfect. If Olivia wanted a performance, she was going to get one. Only this time, I'd be the one pulling the strings behind the curtain. The week of the wedding arrived like a slow-moving thunderstorm. You could sense it coming, heavy and electric, but no one wanted to acknowledge the lightning that was about to strike. By that point, I'd stopped responding to my family's messages entirely. I'd gone full ghost mode. Every now and then, my mom would leave a voicemail that started cheerful and ended teary. "Sweetheart, please call me back. It's your sister's big week, and she really wants things to be peaceful." I'd listen, say nothing, and press delete. But I wasn't idle. I was watching, quietly, carefully, from the background, just like I always had. Every transaction, every invoice, every contract I had signed still sat neatly in my email folders. I'd learned that since everything was under my name, every single vendor, from the luxury florist to the catering company, would reach out to me directly for final payment authorization before the event. The irony? Olivia had no idea. She thought the wedding planner handled all of that. The planner did, through me. Meanwhile, Olivia was thriving in her little fantasy. Her social media had become a non-stop parade of extravagance. Dress fittings, champagne brunches, pre-wedding spa trips. Her captions read like something out of a magazine. "Can't believe I get to marry my best friend in just a few days. #blessed #bride life." I scrolled through it all one evening, sitting alone in my apartment, the glow of the screen lighting my face. Each post felt like a slap. She was living a dream built entirely on my money, and now she was celebrating it without me. Then, the betrayal came. The kind that doesn't just sting, it cuts straight through you, clean and deep. It was 2 days before the wedding. I was finishing up client work when my phone buzzed. A message from an old friend popped up. "Hannah," someone who had gone to college with Olivia. "Hannah, hey, just wanted to say, I didn't realize you were Olivia's brother. Small world." "Me?" "Yeah, that's me." "What?" "Hannah, well, I saw your name mentioned in her bridal shower speech. It was interesting." My stomach tightened. Interesting, in Hannah's vocabulary, usually meant cringeworthy disaster. Me, what did she say? "Hannah, she was joking, I think. Something like, my brother's never really been good at relationships, but at least he's good at paying for other people's weddings." The whole room laughed. For a second, I thought my vision blurred. I read the message again, slower this time, making sure I didn't misread it. Good at paying for other people's weddings. I felt something inside me crack. Not anger, not yet, just disbelief. I called Hannah immediately. Was that really what she said? "Yeah," she said hesitantly. It was meant as a joke, but people laughed, and she didn't really correct it. "I thought you knew." I didn't. Of course I didn't. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time in silence, staring at nothing. My chest hurt, like my ribs were caving in. That single sentence, that joke, told me everything I needed to know. To her, I wasn't a brother. I was a punchline. I opened Instagram again. Sure enough, she'd posted a video clip from the bridal shower, her standing at the mic, champagne in hand, her friends cheering. The caption read, "The roast of the year, love my people." I turned on the audio. There it was. Her voice, bright, confident, dripping with arrogance. And my brother Evan. He's been so helpful with the wedding. He's basically my unofficial wedding sponsor. Maybe he should start a business. Weddings by Evan. For people too busy to have lives of their own. Laughter filled the room. My laughter once filled those kinds of moments, too. Forced, polite, harmless. But now, hearing it from the outside, it sounded cruel. And when I saw my parents in the background, laughing right along with her, that's when the anger came. The slow, burning kind that doesn't make you shout or throw things, but rather clarifies things. Like seeing the world through glass after years of fog. I closed the app and sat in the quiet. For the first time, I truly saw my family for who they were. Not just as flawed people, but as users. Every nice word, every, "we're so proud of you," every, "you're such a blessing to this family," had always come with a price tag. And now, I was done paying. The next day, I went to my parents' house one last time. I hadn't planned to. I just needed to see it all one more time before I decided what to do. My mom opened the door, surprised. "Evan, finally, you came." She ushered me inside before I could say anything. The living room was full of wedding boxes, decorations, table centerpieces, floral samples. Olivia was there, sitting cross-legged on the couch, scrolling on her phone. When she looked up and saw me, she smiled like nothing had happened. "Well, look who decided to show up," she said. "Did Mom guilt you into helping again?" I stared at her for a second. "You know, for someone who doesn't want me at her wedding, you sure rely on me a lot." She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, are we still on that?" "Evan, I told you, it's not personal. You just feel out of place. It's not your scene." "Not my scene," I repeated quietly. "Exactly," she said, missing the tone completely. "I mean, think about it. Black tie, high-profile guests, photographers everywhere. You'd hate it. You should honestly be relieved." My mom, sensing the tension, jumped in. "Sweetheart, please don't start an argument. Olivia's already stressed enough." "Stressed?" I asked, looking between them. "You're throwing a $750,000 wedding funded by someone you banned from attending. Forgive me if I'm having trouble finding sympathy." Olivia sighed dramatically. "Here we go again. Evan, you're making this about you. Can't you just be happy for me?" Happy. That word tasted bitter. I didn't say another word. I just turned and started walking toward the door. My mom called after me. "Wait, where are you going?" "Don't worry," I said. "You'll see soon enough." I walked out, shutting the door behind me. That night, as I sat in my car outside the wedding venue, the pieces all started to fall into place. The security company, the event insurance, the vendor list, every major moving part of that wedding ran through my signature. I hadn't planned to ruin anything yet, but the power I held was intoxicating. Then my phone buzzed again. "Mom, your father and I are so proud of Olivia. Tomorrow's going to be magical. Olivia, FYI, we'll need you to finalize payment for the lighting team by morning. The planner said they can't proceed until it's cleared." "No, please. No, thank you. Just instructions." And right then, as I stared at that text, something inside me hardened completely. I opened my laptop. The email from the lighting company sat unread in my inbox. They'd asked for final authorization for their setup, nearly $24,000. Without my go-ahead, their contract stated they wouldn't proceed. The same applied to the venue's final insurance confirmation, the catering deposit, and the sound team. Olivia had unknowingly built her entire fantasy world on top of me. And with one small, calm choice, I could watch it all crumble. I didn't act that night. Not yet. Instead, I decided to visit the venue the following day, partly to confirm what I already knew, partly because I wanted to see what my money had built. The next morning, I drove out early. The estate sat on a hill overlooking vineyards, sunlight hitting the glass chandeliers hung in the outdoor reception tent. Workers moved like ants, arranging tables, hauling boxes, testing sound systems. It was beautiful, painfully beautiful. I watched from a distance, hands in my pockets. Then I saw Olivia, dressed in a cream robe, barking orders at the planner like a queen. She was holding a mimosa, her hair half done, surrounded by bridesmaids laughing at her jokes. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel envy. I didn't feel small. I felt free, because I realized something crucial in that moment. I wasn't ruining her life. I wasn't sabotaging her happiness. I was simply removing myself from the foundation she had taken for granted. That was the day I decided what to do. Not out of revenge, but out of closure. And when I finally made the call later that afternoon, the call that would quietly, efficiently, and legally unravel every inch of her perfect wedding, I didn't feel guilt. I didn't even feel anger. I just felt peace. The kind that comes when you've been silent for too long and finally decide to let the silence end. But the real chaos hadn't even started yet. When I woke up the morning of the wedding, I didn't feel like myself. Not in a dramatic, movie-type way, just quietly detached, as if my body had decided to move on autopilot and leave my emotions behind. My apartment felt heavier than usual, every sound muffled. The world outside was bright and loud, but inside, everything was still. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of black coffee that had gone cold hours ago, staring at my phone. Dozens of missed calls. My mom, my dad, the wedding planner, even a few numbers I didn't recognize. I hadn't answered any of them. The calm before the storm, I guess. I had done it. The night before, around 11:45 p.m., I sent a series of very short, very polite emails. Nothing dramatic. Just 3 sentences each. Due to unresolved financial authorization, please place all services for the Olivia Hamilton and Ryan Brooks wedding event on hold until further confirmation. Thank you for your understanding. No threats. No rants. Just the truth. I was the financial authorizer. And without me, nothing, legally or contractually, could move forward. Then I shut my laptop, turned off my phone, and sat in silence. By morning, I could imagine what was happening. The chaos, the panic. But I didn't smile. I didn't feel triumphant. If anything, I felt hollow. You'd think there'd be satisfaction in taking down people who'd wronged you. But when they're your family, the victory feels like a bruise that never quite heals. Around 10 a.m., I finally turned my phone back on. It lit up instantly. 27 missed calls. 14 voicemails. Dozens of texts. I scrolled through them slowly. Mom, Evan, what did you do? The venue says payments are missing. Olivia, this isn't funny. Fix this now. Ryan, dude, you're messing with people's livelihoods. Grow up. Dad, call your mother. She's in tears. Planner, Mr. Hamilton, I urgently need your approval to proceed with the vendor reconfirmations. It was like reading a script for a disaster movie, except I was both the villain and the invisible man. I didn't reply. Instead, I put my phone face down and went for a walk. The autumn air was crisp, and the city was waking up. Joggers, dog walkers, the smell of bakeries opening their doors. For the first time in weeks, I felt oddly weightless. My sister's wedding was hours away, and I wasn't part of it. I wasn't invited, wasn't welcome, but I also wasn't trapped anymore. Yet, beneath that relief, something darker lingered. Guilt. Not the kind you can rationalize away with logic. The kind that whispers, you're still their son. You're still her brother. By noon, I found myself driving aimlessly. I didn't plan to go anywhere in particular, but somehow, I ended up parked across the street from the venue again. It was chaos. From where I sat, I could see the planner pacing on her phone, gesturing wildly. Delivery trucks were lined up at the gate, some leaving, others stuck waiting. A couple of workers sat on the curb smoking, looking frustrated. I saw Olivia once, in her robe again, hair done this time, screaming into her phone. I rolled down my window just enough to hear fragments. He what? Are you serious right now? He can't do that. He's my brother. The planner said something I couldn't make out. Then Olivia shouted, well, fix it. That's your job, before storming off. A few minutes later, my phone rang again. This time, I answered. It was my dad. Evan, he said, his voice tight. You need to come here. Right now. No, I said simply. Don't you dare hang up on me, he snapped. Your mother's hysterical. The venue's saying everything's canceled unless you clear it. What were you thinking? I let out a slow breath. I was thinking that maybe I shouldn't be funding a wedding I wasn't even invited to. He went silent for a beat. Then, in that patronizing tone I knew too well, he said, Evan, stop acting childish. This isn't about you. That line again. Always that line. Dad, I said quietly, you've been saying that my entire life. When I got overlooked, when Olivia got what she wanted, when I helped pay for things and never got a thank you, you always said it wasn't about me. Maybe that's why you all forgot I exist. Don't start your martyr act, he snapped. This is real life. People are waiting. Do the right thing. Funny, I said. That's what I thought I was doing all along. He started yelling again, but I hung up. I didn't go inside. I didn't even stay parked. I just drove away. That afternoon, I turned my phone off completely and went somewhere no one would think to look for me. the lake. It was a small, quiet place I used to go as a kid, somewhere between a park and a forgotten trail, surrounded by tall reeds and distant sounds of ducks skimming the water. I sat on an old bench and stared at the ripples. For the first time in months, no buzzing phone, no guilt, no noise. Just silence. And that's when it hit me, the weight of it all. The years of being invisible. The way I'd twisted myself into someone useful just to be tolerated. Every ignored birthday, every "you're so reliable" that really meant "you'll do it so we don't have to." Tears slipped down my face before I even noticed. I wasn't crying out of anger or sadness. It was more like release. Like I'd been holding my breath for too long. Around sunset, I finally pulled out my phone again. Dozens more messages had piled up. Olivia's tone had shifted from furious to panicked. "Olivia, please, Evan. They're saying we might have to postpone. Everyone's already here. Just fix this and we can talk later, okay? Mom, your sister is devastated. Please, honey, whatever this is, we can figure it out. Ryan, if this wedding doesn't happen, it's on you. Think about how that'll look. Think about how that'll look." That one made me laugh, actually laugh. Because for once, I didn't care how it looked. For once, I wasn't the one scrambling to keep everyone else's world together. But as I sat there, the sun dipping low over the water, I did feel something else, a flicker of emptiness. Like I'd reached the peak of a long climb and realized there was nothing at the top except quiet air and a view that no longer mattered. I'd spent years trying to earn love from people who only loved what I could provide. And now that I'd finally stopped, I didn't know who I was without that role. The next day, I went back to work as if nothing had happened. My clients had deadlines. My inbox was full. Life didn't pause just because your family imploded. Still, I kept my phone on silent. A part of me was scared to look. But curiosity always wins. Around noon, I checked my messages again. The first text was from my mother. "Mom, I hope you're happy. Everything fell apart. Olivia's in pieces. The guests left. People are asking questions. You humiliated her. You humiliated us." Then another from my dad. "Dad, don't bother coming around here anymore." And finally, one from Olivia. "Olivia, I don't even recognize you anymore. I always thought you were weird, but this? You're pathetic. I'll never forgive you." I stared at that last message for a long time. Then I deleted it. The ache didn't go away, though. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every word replayed in my head, twisting, reshaping itself into guilt. Maybe I was pathetic. Maybe I'd gone too far. I tried to distract myself with work, but my focus was gone. I'd hurt people, even if they'd hurt me first, and a part of me still cared. That's the curse of being the responsible one. You learn to shoulder blame even when it's not yours. So, I did something I hadn't done in years. I took a week off. No work, no family, no phone calls. I just disappeared. I drove upstate, rented a small cabin by another lake, and spent my days walking, reading, and sitting in silence. For the first time in decades, there were no demands on me. No expectations. Just quiet. And slowly, painfully slowly, I started to think clearly again. I replayed everything in my head, not out of bitterness, but to understand. I realized my entire life had revolved around approval, being the dependable son, the fixer, the one who didn't make waves. And when I stopped fitting that mold, my family didn't know how to deal with me. But I wasn't innocent either. I had let it happen. Every yes I'd ever said had built the cage I now wanted to escape. By the end of the week, I came to a decision. I wasn't going to fight them. I wasn't going to argue or justify or try to rebuild anything. I was done trying to earn a seat at a table that was never meant for me. Instead, I was going to move forward, quietly, methodically. There was one thing left I needed to do before I could truly walk away. One last step that would close this chapter for good. Not to destroy, not to punish, but to reclaim what was mine and make sure they could never twist the story against me. And as I packed my bags that morning, ready to leave the cabin and return home, I already knew what it was. But first, I had to pay one more visit. Not to Olivia, to someone who had unknowingly helped me build the perfect revenge. When I got back from that week in the cabin, I was a different person, quieter, sharper, and, for the first time in my life, focused on myself instead of the people who drained me. My apartment felt lighter somehow. Maybe it was because the guilt had finally stopped echoing in every corner of my mind. Maybe because I'd made peace with something fundamental. I didn't owe them anything anymore. I spent the next few days catching up on work, and the difference was immediate. Without constant emotional chaos pulling at me, I worked better, faster, cleaner. I landed 2 big contracts within a week, one with a real estate firm in Chicago, another with a national design company that had found my portfolio online. Money was pouring in again, but this time, it was mine to keep. I started saving aggressively, investing in a few small ventures, and even hired an assistant to help manage the incoming clients. It's strange how peace looks like success when you stop letting people interfere with it. But the family situation? That was a storm still brewing beneath the surface. My parents hadn't reached out since their last venom-filled messages, and Olivia had gone completely silent online. Her picture-perfect Instagram life vanished overnight. No wedding photos, no captions, no honeymoon and Santorini posts. Just a single blank post that read, "Taking time offline. Please respect our privacy." I didn't need to imagine what had happened. Word spread quickly enough through people who still knew both of us. Apparently, the wedding collapse had been a spectacle. Guests had arrived to find chaos. Vendors refused to set up, the venue hadn't been paid, and Olivia had a very public meltdown. There was shouting, crying, and eventually, the police got called because one of Ryan's groomsmen tried to negotiate with a vendor who refused to release equipment. The wedding was officially called off by mid-afternoon. Most guests left early. Some posted so sad for the couple on Facebook, while others, the kind who lived for gossip, gleefully hinted that something financial had gone wrong. And Ryan? He didn't take it well. Apparently, he'd had no idea that everything was under my name. When the dust settled and the bills started arriving, he learned the hard way that the entire wedding's infrastructure, from catering to contracts, legally pointed back to me, the man who wasn't even invited. A month after the fiasco, I got an email from Olivia. Short, clipped, and carefully worded, like she'd spent hours editing it. "Evan, I think we should talk. Things got really out of hand, and I want to clear the air. I'll admit I made mistakes, but so did you. Let's not make this worse than it already is. We're still family." I didn't reply. 2 days later, another email. "Please, I need your help sorting out the refund process. The vendors are saying the accounts are all in your name, and some of them won't speak to me. I'm not trying to start anything. I just need to fix this." I didn't reply to that one either. I wasn't being cruel, just deliberate. I knew silence was louder than any speech I could give. Still, I had a plan forming, one that wasn't about petty payback or public embarrassment. I didn't want to destroy her life. I wanted her to understand mine, the weight of always being the one holding everything together, only to be pushed aside when things went right. So I decided to make things right my way. It started with a phone call to the wedding planner, whose voice trembled when she heard my name. "Mr. Hamilton," she said quickly, "I just want to say I'm so sorry for all the confusion. I had no idea." "It's fine," I interrupted calmly. "I just wanted to confirm that all outstanding balances are settled and that no one is holding any contracts against me." She hesitated. "Actually, there are still a few vendors waiting for final refunds. They're technically in your name, so I'll handle those," I said. "But I need everything documented properly. Every email, every invoice, every message from Olivia or Ryan asking for payment or using my accounts. Can you forward those to me?" She sounded relieved. "Of course. I'll send them right away." That call gave me everything I needed, a paper trail of months of manipulation. Messages where Olivia and my parents instructed me to pay. Notes where they explicitly confirmed, "Evan will cover this." Proof that I hadn't just been generous, I'd been used. I spent a week compiling everything into a neat digital file. Then I sent it to 2 places, my lawyer and, interestingly, my accountant. When my lawyer called, he chuckled after reading the first few pages. "Evan, you could technically sue for reimbursement and damages." "I don't want that," I said. "I just want control back. I want them to know I'm not their financial safety net anymore." He paused. "Then you already have what you need." And he was right. That's when I decided to take one final step, something symbolic, not destructive. Something that would close the loop. Remember the venue? The vineyard on the hill, the one I'd stood outside watching like a stranger? It turned out, after the failed wedding, the owners had blacklisted Olivia and Ryan because of the unpaid deposits. The event's cancellation had caused a mess, and they were eager to find a new client who could restore their reputation. So I made an offer. A few months later, my company, Hamilton Design and Events, a brand new branch of my growing business, partnered with that same vineyard to renovate their event space. I hired a team, handled the design, and built a clean, modern aesthetic that gave the place a second life. We installed lighting systems, new seating arrangements, and digital booking platforms. My company name was listed on their website as their exclusive design partner. In a poetic twist, I ended up making more from that contract than I'd ever spent on Olivia's wedding. And when the venue reopened with a small private event, I was there, standing in the very spot where my sister had once screamed into her phone about me ruining her perfect day. Except this time, it was my logo on the brochures, my business cards on the front desk, my name on the partnership plaque near the entrance. I didn't tell anyone in my family. Not yet. But life has a funny way of connecting dots when you least expect it. About 3 months later, I ran into one of Olivia's old bridesmaids, Hannah, the same one who'd told me about the bridal shower joke. We bumped into each other at a networking event downtown. She grinned when she saw me. "Evan, wow, you look good. Like, really good. Heard about your new business. It's blowing up." "Trying my best," I said with a smile. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "You know Olivia saw your name on that vineyard site, right?" I blinked. "Oh, she lost it," Hannah whispered, clearly amused. "Apparently, she and Ryan broke up. He blamed her for everything that happened. Then she found out you basically took over the place that was supposed to be her wedding venue. She said it was a deliberate act of humiliation." I couldn't help but laugh. Humiliation requires intent. I was just doing my job. Hannah smirked. "Well, it's working for you. You've become sort of a quiet legend in our circle." I didn't respond to that, just nodded, grateful for the poetic balance of it all. That night, I drove out to the vineyard again. It was hosting a small engagement dinner, ironically, for another couple who'd booked through my company. The sun was setting, painting the hills gold, and soft music floated through the open-air hall. As I stood there watching the guests laugh and clink glasses, I realized something had shifted in me. I didn't need revenge anymore. I'd already won by building something out of what they tried to take from me. The money was back. My business was thriving. I was finally living life on my own terms. But even more satisfying than success was the silence. No more desperate calls. No more manipulative, "we need your help," messages. My family still hadn't reached out. I heard bits and pieces through relatives. Olivia had moved back in with my parents temporarily, trying to rebuild. Ryan had started dating someone new within months. My parents, embarrassed by how public the wedding fiasco became, stopped hosting family gatherings altogether. And me? I didn't gloat. I didn't send them proof of my success. I didn't need their acknowledgement anymore. Because I had finally learned that peace doesn't come from proving people wrong. It comes from proving to yourself that you were never the problem. But even with that peace, there was one final thread left hanging. One last moment I owed myself. Not for closure. Not for payback. Just for truth. Because there was still something they didn't know. Something about that wedding, that money, and that phone call that ended it all. That would change how they saw everything forever. And it was time they found out. 6 months passed before I saw any of them again. 6 months of silence, where every part of my life began to bloom while theirs seemed to quietly wither. It's strange how quickly peace becomes addictive once you've lived your whole life being everyone's emotional ATM. I slept better. I worked smarter. My business had grown so much that I hired 2 new designers and opened a small office space overlooking the city. I even started dating again, a woman named Claire who ran a photography studio. We met during one of my design projects, bonded over coffee, and eventually, laughter turned into something real. I hadn't thought much about my family until one afternoon in early spring when an email arrived from my mother. The subject line was simple: "Dinner? Please." For a long time, I just stared at it. My first instinct was to delete it, pretend it never showed up. But something in the way she wrote, "Please," made me pause. My mother wasn't one to beg, not even when she should have. So I agreed. Against my better judgment, I told her I'd come by on Sunday evening. When I pulled up to my parents' house, everything looked smaller, not physically, but emotionally. The paint was peeling, the garden was overgrown, and the warmth that once defined that home had drained out. My dad answered the door, thinner and grayer than I remembered. "Evan," he said, his tone measured. "You came." I said I would, I replied. Inside, the living room was quiet. My mother was setting the table, her movements slow, deliberate. The smell of roast chicken filled the air, something nostalgic and oddly sad. Sitting at the far end of the table was Olivia. I hadn't seen her since the day I'd walked away from their house months ago. But the difference was jarring. Gone was the perfectly styled hair, the smug confidence, the designer clothes. She looked deflated. Her eyes were hollow, her posture small. She didn't even look up right away. "Hi," I said finally. She glanced at me briefly. "Hey." It wasn't much, but it was more than I expected. We ate mostly in silence. My dad cleared his throat a few times, like he wanted to say something, but every time he started, the words seemed to die in his mouth. My mom did most of the talking, the kind of filler chatter people use to cover deep discomfort. After a while, she set down her fork and looked at me. "Evan, we all made mistakes," she said carefully. "But this distance, it's tearing us apart. I know you were hurt, but—" I cut her off gently. "Mom, it's not about being hurt. It's about being used. There's a difference." Olivia flinched slightly, eyes dropping to her plate. My dad sighed. "You think we don't regret it? We do. You embarrassed the whole family, Evan. People still talk about that wedding." I leaned back in my chair. "I didn't embarrass the family, Dad. The family embarrassed itself. I just stopped cleaning up the mess." That shut him up for a moment. My mom looked at Olivia then, urging her with her eyes to say something. Olivia took a slow breath and finally spoke. "I lost everything because of that day," she said quietly. "Ryan left. The vendors blacklisted me. Half my friends stopped talking to me. You got what you wanted." I tilted my head. "Did I? What do you think I wanted, Olivia?" She met my eyes for the first time, her voice trembling. "To ruin me." I didn't speak right away. I wanted her to sit in that thought for a moment, the kind of silence that forces people to face themselves. Then I said, "If I wanted to ruin you, I would have done it publicly. I didn't call anyone. I didn't post a thing. I didn't even tell people what really happened. You did that all on your own." Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. I continued, "I didn't ruin your life, Olivia. I just stopped financing it." The room went still. My mother's eyes welled with tears, my father looked away, and Olivia's expression shifted, something between anger and realization. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a thin envelope. I slid it across the table toward her. "This is for you," I said. She hesitated before opening it. Inside was a printed copy of a single email, the original message I'd sent the night before her wedding, the one that had paused all the contracts. At the bottom of the page was the timestamp, and under it, a short note I'd written by hand. "You built your dream on my name." I simply took my name back. She stared at it for a long moment, her hands trembling. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because," I said quietly, "I want you to understand something. I didn't make that call out of hate. I made it because you crossed a line you can't uncross. You made me believe I was less than you, that I should be grateful to serve you. And that day, I realized I didn't have to." Tears welled in her eyes. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. My mom wiped her face. "Evan, she's your sister." "She still is," I said. "But I'm done pretending family means unconditional forgiveness. That's not love. That's control." Olivia looked down at the paper again, her voice small. "You were right," she said softly. "I took advantage of you. I said things I can't take back. And I paid for it. I know you don't believe me, but I've been trying to get my life together." Something in her tone, fragile but real, made me pause. For the first time, she sounded like a person who'd actually faced the mirror and didn't like what she saw. "I'm not asking for money," she continued quickly, as if she expected me to walk out. I needed to say I'm sorry. I lost everything because I thought I was above you. I wasn't." For a long time, no one spoke. I just watched her, the woman who'd once laughed at me for being awkward, now sitting across the table, stripped of all that arrogance. It was surreal, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel bitter. I just felt done. I stood up, reached into my jacket again, and this time, pulled out a check. I set it on the table next to her. "That's your reimbursement for half of what I spent on your wedding. You don't owe me a cent anymore." Her eyes widened. "Why would you do that?" "Because forgiveness isn't about waiting for you to change," I said. "It's about freeing myself from caring whether you do." She looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She just nodded, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. I turned to my parents. "You always said family comes first. But you forgot something. Family isn't who you use. It's who you respect. And you taught me neither." My dad opened his mouth, then closed it again. My mom whispered, We can do better. Maybe, I said, but it's not my job to make sure you do. And with that, I walked out. The air outside felt crisp, like the universe itself had exhaled. I stood by my car for a moment, letting the night sink in. The distant hum of crickets, the faint light from their kitchen window, the feeling of closure settling over me like a warm coat. For years, I'd chased their approval like it was oxygen. Now, standing there, I realized I didn't need it. I had my own life, my own peace, my own family. The kind you build, not the kind you're born into. 3 months later, I married Claire at the same vineyard that had once hosted the ghost of Olivia's wedding. The owner insisted on comping part of the event as thanks for my design work, but I paid in full. This time, it wasn't about proving anything. It was about honoring what mattered. The ceremony was small, simple, and perfect. As I stood with Claire under the arch I had designed myself, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about us, I realized that sometimes destruction isn't the opposite of creation, it's the beginning of it. Olivia didn't come. She sent a short text that morning. I hope it's everything you deserve. And for once, it was. When the night ended and everyone had gone, I stood alone in the quiet vineyard, the string lights flickering softly above me. I thought about that first dinner months ago, where I'd been told I was too embarrassing to be seen with. Now, my name was on the wall outside, engraved in bronze under the vineyard's redesigned plaque. Hamilton Design and Events, Restoring Elegance. I smiled, knowing no one could ever erase that, because they had tried to make me invisible. And instead, I became unforgettable.